While having service done in Red Bay, Alabama, there are a lot of downtime, and Red Bay doesn't have that much to offer, but if you look on the map, Red Bay, Alabama is right on the border with Mississippi, and just across that border is Tupelo, Mississippi. So Nancy and I decided to go make a day trip to Tupelo and see what it has to offer. I'm Steve.
I'm Nancy, and together with
Marge the Blind Sheltie
and Phoebe, the warrior princess, we are living our dream. Our goal, to travel the U.S. and Canada,
while spreading the messages taught to us by our pets of
keep smiling, be kind,
and be happy. Join us on our travels by subscribing to our channel as we continue our great adventure. The big draw in Tupelo, the birthplace of Elvis Presley. I have to go inside and see about tickets, assuming this might have been similar to what his parents' car would have been. Born in 1935, died in 1977. Yeah, that was too short. I got tickets, so they're pet friendly, they said.
They can go in?
Yeah. Oh, his birthday's in 2 days.
What?
His birthday's on January 8th.
Oh. So the house was built by Elvis's father, Vernon, in 1934. Vernon had to borrow $180 from his boss at the time for the materials to build the house, and he built it here on this spot. So this is the original location of the house. It's not been moved at all.
Wow.
In 1935, Elvis and his twin brother Jesse were born in this room here, but Jesse was stillborn, so Elvis was the only child that Vernon and Gladys had. They were only able to live in this house for around 4 years because Vernon was sent to prison for a few months for check forgery. So because he was in prison, he couldn't pay back that money he borrowed, so the house was repossessed. Elvis, at the time, was around 3 years old, so when they moved from here, he was around the same age as he was in that photo right up there. Yeah. Now later on, when they moved to Memphis, they sold most of what they had. So these furnishings in the house are not entirely original. Most of them were donated by local residents, so everything is still from that same time period. And then Vernon came back later when the house was open and set everything up in the way he remembered it, like in the same layout. Okay. So it all does look really close how it did. It's very accurate. And then the only things that are actually still original is that fireplace, and then the stove, and the icebox, which are right over in the kitchen.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Tiny home living, huh?
Yeah.
So you say he borrowed money from his boss. What did Vernon? Where did he work? Here in Tupelo?
He was a dairy farmer.
Dairy farmer? And that's an ice box where you got to go buy black ice.
Yeah.
You notice what's missing from the house?
Yeah, the outhouse.
Yeah, no bathroom, outhouse.
I'm sure there was one.
Yeah, I think the one impression you get here is, yeah, Elvis was born very low income, living in a 2-room house with an outhouse, but a lot of people lived that way back then. When they say small 2-room home, that's what they mean.
Shotgun house.
Yeah. That was really quite interesting to go visit, especially seeing some of the early days and sitting in the church where Elvis went to church and started his music by singing the hymns in the church. Well, they actually moved it here. So what did that remind you of?
So we're here at Elvis's birthplace, and they have this chapel here that was not originally on this property, but it's the chapel that Elvis attended with his family back in the 40s, 30s,
40,
40s.
yeah, 43, 38 through 43 is when his family lived here.
Right. But yeah, so they took us in and they did a multimedia type immersive type presentation, and yeah, it immediately threw me back to late 50s in Rochester, New Hampshire, at Alton Bay, with the sides up on the chapel, and just singing, lots and lots of singing. And apparently this is what Elvis thrived on, and was the music. And yeah, it did. It brought back a lot of good memories. A lot of good memories.
My impressions, sitting through that little 15-minute presentation, the singing, the hands-on, the way the preachers talk, it gets you very emotionally involved, and then that's what music does, and that's something that I've learned from music. And so you can see how that can be a spark in someone that wants to pursue that. They said that Elvis, his goal was to become one of those big quartets singing in churches.
Blackwood Brothers, yep.
Yeah, and well, he ended up making more popular, but he always did gospel. He always did gospel. All right, Marge. That's funny what you say about Elvis being off limits because of his gyrations and the kind of music he said. But where did his music come from? Church.
It came from the church, yeah.
I just think that...
But he was considered... He was actually kind of worse than the Monkees,
Oh yeah.
The Monkees didn't do all that
hip movement. Yeah. Moving the hips. That's what. Yeah.
It's suggestive.
I guess it is. But it started a rock and roll. It was one of the starts.
Okay.
So while staying in Red Bay, we're only about 45 minutes from the Natchez Trace. So we've decided to come down to the Parkway Visitor Center. Oh, you have to have a mask? Okay. Choctaw.
Meriwether Lewis.
See, this is the trace. It goes from Nashville all the way down to Natchez. Growing up in Texas, I'd always heard of the Natchez Trace.
Why do you need a covered bridge? And yeah.
Because the rain. Now, the Trace is an old trail used by Native Americans, then later by pioneers as a trade route. The Natchez was one of the original tribes in the area, along with the Choctaw, the Chickasaw, and other tribes. In 1938, the 444-mile Natchez Trace Parkway was established and is now managed by the National Park Service. The Visitor Center in Tupelo provides an overview of the history of the trail and the parkway.
Cane tugs. In the late 1700s, farmers, miners, and other merchants built flat-bottom boats to transport their goods down the Ohio and Mississippi rivers to the ports of Natchez and New Orleans. Some of these men came from Kentucky, others from Ohio, Pennsylvania, and other states, but they all became known as cane tugs.
So we looked around Tupelo for things to see. Yeah, it's the birthplace of Elvis. But in the meantime, we found the Tupelo National Battlefield. Well, it's not really a parking lot. This is it, just a little lot. Now, the Battle of Tupelo isn't large or a well-known battle. In July of 1864, there was a two-day battle where Confederate soldiers attacked a Union position but were repulsed. There really are only a few markers on this lot in Main Street in Tupelo, but it was an interesting short stop nonetheless. Rice crosses in Tupelo. So right off the main road, it is a national park, at least run by the National Park Service, Tupelo National Battlefield. Like I said, not really a parking lot, just a space to pull over real quickly, and a couple of markers. Visiting places like the birthplace of Elvis, the Natchez Trace, and even the small battlefield of Tupelo helps us think about the past and how it influenced our present and our future. It's one of the highlights of traveling the U.S. and Canada in our motorhome. So until next time, keep smiling and be kind. Safe travels, everyone.